Hello everybody, my name is Karen Cortez and the members of our groups are Esli Montoya, Diana Cárcamo, Erika Rodriguez, Ingrid Colindres, and Kelly Cruz. I'm going to talk about articulatory process. In a regular everyday speech, some predictable context, vowels are reduced or delayed. In other contexts, sounds may be inserted or may switch position. Learning to do narrow transcription involves knowing where this predictable articulatory process occurs. Our articulators are always moving from the sounds they just made to the sounds that coming up. This means that each speech segment is influenced by sounds that are near it. When a sound changes, some of its property to be more similar to the nearby sound. This is known as assimilation. Types of articulatory process. The articulatory process are a combination of sounds waves produced by the ways of making the speech sounds. That is all depend on how one's motor cortex, the part which controls the face, jaw, lungs, and larynx works. Hence, produce the articulatory process include assimilation, dissimilation, ependysis, distillation, and vowel reductions.
Hello everyone, my name is Erika Rodriguez and I'm going to talk about assimilation. What is assimilation? When we talk about assimilation, to refer a typical phonetics change process whereby the pronunciation of one segment of the language adapt to that of another in the same words, thus causing a change in its sound. Assimilation is a phonological process in which a speech sound the procedures for follow it. For example, in English, the negative prefix appears as in before word beginning with a bilabial stop, for example, possible and impossible, but as in before words beginning with a all-bilabial stop, for example, tolerant and intolerant. In the assimilation, there are two kinds, and the first is regressive assimilation, and the second is progressive assimilation. The first is regressive assimilation. In assimilation in which a proceeding sound brings about a change in a following one, for example, the rounding of the lips during the letter S in swing is due to the anticipation, right, of the lip action required for the letter W. And words beginning with a bilabial stop, for example, possible and impossible. But as in before words beginning with a all-bilabial stop, for example, tolerant and intolerant. Okay, the second assimilation is progressive. In assimilation in which a preceding sound brings about changing following ones. For example, the difference between the letter S in words like cats and the letter S in dogs, and the difference between the final, the letter T, is in drop, the final, the letter D, in phrase. Are example of progressive assimilation because the final sound of the letter S or the letter C or letter T or D depend when the preceding consonant is voiced or not.
Okay guys, continue with the topic explaining about dissimilation and deletion. Okay, dissimilation. What is a dissimilation? Dissimilation is the opposite to assimilation in process when two segments become less similar. For example, many speakers break off the sequence of three fricatives with a stop. The opposite of assimilation results into some become less alike in articulatory or acoustic terms. The resulting sequence of sound is easier to articulate and distinguish. For example, feast. What is the distinguishing in the word? Is FTS, sit, sit, surprise, and surprise. Okay, other definition of dissimulation is the change or omission of one of two identical or closely related sounds in a word. Okay, and so this dissimulation is the different sound in a word. Okay, the other type of articulation process is delation. What is delation? Delation is a process that removes a segment from certain phonetic context. It occurs in everyday rapid speech in many languages. In English, a schwa is often delayed when the next vowel in the word is stressed. Example, slow speech, paired, fast speech, prayed and prayed. Okay, delation is when a sound such as a stressed syllable or a weak consonant is not pronounced. For example, most American English speakers do not pronounce the D in the hatbah. Okay guys, thank you. My partner continue with the topic.
Hello, my name is Ingris Colindres. Now I'm going to talk about dependencies. This is a process that inserts an extra sound. In English, this tends to happen between nasals and stops or between nasals and fricatives. For example, in the word something, where we often emphasize a little bilabial stop between the bilabial nasal and the voiceless fricative, the metathesis. It is a process that reorders a sequence of segments. For example, prescribe and prescribe and prescription. This process records a sequence of segments. It often results in a sequence of forms that is easier to articulate. For example, prescribe, spaghetti, and pesgeri. The vowel reduction. It is when an stressed vowel moves to a more central position. When the vowels are unstressed.
Hello everyone, my name is Kelly Cruz and I'm gonna continue with a topic and also the research that we made during the video. Okay, as we can see, we can observe that next in the slide is the paragraph that the person read for us. So this is the paragraph and also is the video of the person we are gonna show you.
I went to Turkey a few years ago with a college named Chris. We didn't send there to train secondary school teacher in a school on the outskirts of Istanbul. While I was there, I decided to go and see an old friend of mine, a young Turkish woman named Fatos, who I hadn't seen of several years. I called her and we agreed to meet in a hotel in the center of Istanbul. Chris came too, and there we had very nice dinner together. After dinner, we ordered Turkish coffee and we talked for a while, until Fatos suddenly asked me, would you like me to read your coffee cup? I refused politely because, to be honest, I don't really believe like ignorance. Unfortunately, but Chris immediately said he would be happy for to read his coffee.
So, as we can observe, he was reading and also he was having some troubles or some mistakes. So we are gonna observe the transcription. In this transcription, you are gonna observe some words that are write them in a wrong way. Why? Because this is what the person said when he was reading. Okay, the next is a page with the mistake that the person read. So if we can observe during the video, he made some mistake when he was reading. So it was mistake from intonation, pronunciation, and also doesn't respect the commas, the dots, and some things like that. So in the mistake we are gonna observe, we have different icons hidden. They identify what kind of mistake they are, or what kind of mistake of the process are they representing. We are gonna continue talking about in the next slide. So this is all for me. Thank you so much.
Good morning everybody, my name is Diana Carcamo and I will tell you the recommendation that as group we found for students with problems in pronunciation. The first recommendation is that they have to look for different types of texts. Those texts can be books or magazines. They have to detect new words or long words throughout the story in order to practice them later. They have to reinforce that word multiple times in order to gain practice and confidence. The students have to remember that the space around words is important. Why? Because native speakers link words, but when we are learning a new language, we don't have that fluency. So if someone is listening to what we are talking, maybe with the bad pronunciation of words, that person will not understand what we are trying to say. The other recommendation that we have is that when we don't know about the pronunciation of a word, we can ask to the teacher, we can look in a dictionary, or maybe we can download some apps on a cell phone in order to practice. And the last recommendation is that students have to read frequently in order to improve their fluency, and they can read aloud and record themselves in order to have an idea of the pronunciation of the words they might have. As a conclusion, doing this research as a group, we could observe the different types of mistakes that people can do when they are trying to express something or say something in their daily life, in their daily speech. So in this case, the boy who read the article, we could see the different types of mistakes, and identifying and classifying those mistakes was a really hard job. So it is really important that as teachers, as future teachers, we could identify those types of mistakes to correct them. Of course, we have to look different activities, different ways in order to help them with their fluency and pronunciation. But to conclude, we'll learn about the different types of articulatory processes, and in the future I think that we will be able to identify those mistakes in our students. So thank you very much.